Here we have the two of them, Stephano coming from Code A, of course, and Flying able to go through the up and downs. Yep, I cannot believe that we have Daybreak as the first map.
Stephano, by the way, is so famous in Korea these days. Every time I hang out with him, people recognize him everywhere. He is so well known. I mean, he stands out a little bit with that hair, but still, he is known by people all over Korea. There's a lot of gaming fans watching StarCraft 2 right now who recognize him.
It's going to be a great game. Flying versus Stephano. Map number 1 is going to be Daybreak, the map for Zerg versus Protoss, a map that Stephano has won countless games. We are jumping into the game right now. This is the GSL Code A, guys. We are in the second round. We have the Zerg versus Protoss. Stephano versus Flying, brought to you by Color Wolf. Our Woongjin Stars Protoss player starts to the top right of Daybreak. In red, we have
Woongjin Stars Fly.
One of the fastest Protosses to adapt to StarCraft 2 when Kessel players were first switching.
He was able to win against Jaedong in Pro League, against a teammate of our gamer at the bottom left of the map. In blue for EG, we have
EG Stephano lay the court.
This guy is 20 years old. I've been casting his first games when he was 12 back in Warcraft 3. He's come a long way. Back then he played human, was able to take games, maps of the best players, but never really a main contender. This changed a lot with StarCraft 2. Now he's one of the best players in the entire world.
Yep. I think pretty much people have decided he's arguably the best foreigner out there. And he's facing a pylon in the main build from Flying. Probably going to be a Forge build, but he could add a gate. The gate would be a little bit late at this point.
Stephano has a crazy amount of matches played. In total, he played 1,140 televised games. Of those, 400 were against Protoss, and of those 400, he won 300, a 74% win ratio. This is by far his best matchup.
Yep, this is the matchup people were the most afraid of him in foreign tournaments, Koreans and foreigners alike. He's so strong here. His roach play, his style is so difficult to hold.
He's the player where people said he figured it out. He figured out ZVP. Protoss players all around the world, they hate him, and for good reason. Stephano is scouting now, and Flying his opponent. He is in a position where he now gets his Nexus on the low ground, gets a pylon there with the placement of the Forge. He can hide his tech a little bit better. Stephano didn't really prepare too much for Flying as a opponent, but more for the race in general. He says that one of the things that he personally feels is if you prepare too much for an opponent and analyze his games, then you are bound to have certain expectations towards the game. And if there's a change in strategy, it's very difficult for you to deal with that. So he feels that all his builds, all his openings, all his timings, his scouting patterns are just good enough to deal with whatever his opponent is going to throw against him. So he's not going to head into a game with assumptions.
Yeah, it's a very universal approach, you could say. So it builds that will work against anyone. It's looking at the game from an objective way of saying, okay, well, Zerg can have this, 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 or this, but my build is good against all of those things. I can transition.
If you go for this approach, you certainly have to be very, very confident in your abilities. Most players like to prepare a lot more, like to analyze statistics, like to analyze VODs and replays and prepare accordingly, but not so Stephano. He's a player who is playing a lot on intuition. He has instincts in this game. He knows exactly what to do and when to do it.
Yep, it's very true. Stephano is considered by many to be the favorite in this match.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
And
if you sorry,
I was just going to say, I just want to see what Flying has in store here, because Stephano has a lot of games to watch and prepare. You know, since Stephano doesn't really prepare too much for big matches, but that is absolutely not the case of a Casper Protoss who has, like you said, 1,140 games and all matchups to look at.
Yeah, so Flying can prepare a lot. Stephano, yes, even if he wanted to, couldn't, because Flying, if you look just at statistics and at data, then I would give Flying not even a chance if Stephano just suddenly broke his right wrist. Because Flying has 7 televised matches played against Zerg, and he only won 3 of them. He has a 43% win ratio, very little experience in televised matches against Zerg. Of course, he's doing decent-ish in Pro League in this matchup, but still, raw statistic and raw data gives Stephano an edge over his opponent that is just insane.
Yeah, very true. Flying is a pros player who his micro and his decision making are really, really strong. You don't see him in the late game always, but when he's making decisions, he makes some of the best.
He's making a decision to go into a build that I have not seen in a long time. He is going for the Inca Memorial build. We have against Zerg the Dark Shrine opening. I feel the last time that I've seen this on this map was by Nesti. That was ages ago.
Yeah, we haven't seen this build very much too often. He's going to send these Zealots in to start to damage some structures. Also going to give him scouting information of whether there's a spore here or not, and if there is, he can target it and then send the DT in to finish it off. The Dark Shrine is a little bit behind for these Zealots though. So this is just an idea of him to, what's over here, what have you made, are you making a lot of lings? If not, you're going to have to make a few more here.
I really like what Flying is doing here. If you're up against Stephano, you know all these things that I said earlier. So what you don't want to go is into the late game against this guy. You want to be a little bit sneaky, and this is exactly what Flying does. A great scout in the main base, but more so he would like to place a pylon down while he distracts Stephano with Zealots at the third.
Yep, Zealots going over here. He's going to trap this queen potentially. Even if he doesn't get the queen, he can trade against these lings, the initial ones, very well. 16 lings being made for Stephano, but you know, they're not all coming at the right time, and Stephano is going to face another warped, and this time it's going to be DTs that are next. Next, Zealots actually trap the queen, and this is a great position for the Zealots of Flying against Stephano's lings. The queen is going off creep. She's going to get trapped, and she was killed.
The queen is gone,
Stephano's
and
in
most
trouble,
of the
man.
Zerglings are also a
The DTs.
little bit in trouble. The DTs are coming in, and guys, keep in mind, 3 DTs are able to take down 1 hatch, even if you morph an Overseer on top of the hatch. Stephano didn't scout the DTs. He's just now building the first spore crawlers. He's going to lose the hatch, and he's there.
Yep, he will lose the lair for sure.
If he attacks it, he's going to lose it.
There's no way to stop it because he can't even morph an Overseer if he wants to. He attacks the spore crawler that's being made.
Such a risky and smart build by Flying. He takes a huge risk with this build. Stephano going into the lair tech now at his natural because he knows he can't hold his main base anymore.
Yep, the main is dead. The spawning pool will finish Ling speed before it's taken out, but it will likely die as well here. There's no way he can stop the destruction of the evolution chambers either. There's nothing to stop him. Meanwhile, DTs and Zealots try to target down this spore, and in fact, he will get it. He gets it, and this DT is not detected anymore. He's going to kill a ton of units, and this is looking horrible for Stephano. The game is not over yet because there's no third base for Flying and no real transition yet, but he has a massive lead, and it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Flying played this really well. He's in a position where he warps in additional DTs, and look at that. This is going to be a slaughter. He's taking down a lot of these Zerglings. Even if this detection is finished, I feel he can fight them. He's going in, well, not if he lets them be surrounded like this.
Yeah, he gets a little bit trapped there. He could have done a little bit better with that.
Against the wall, it would have been a little better for him. But in the end, what remains is a very strong Protoss player who went for a risky build, a sneaky build that did not get scouted. Stephano just missing the Dark Shrine in the Twilight Council, and now a huge lead for Flying.
Yeah, let's talk about the worker count. 53 probes to 32 drones, 2 hatch against 2 Naxai. He's got 3 DTs in the main that are always going to be annoying. He could use at any moment in time. Stephano goes for Investors, which is really smart because on a low econ situation like this, when you have the lair tech, it's pretty smart to get something that can also detect and is useful energy-wise. He will lose this Spore Crawler, but he can make an Overseer now. But still, the DT is going to be able to kill drones before the Overseer is ready.
He wants to go for those queens. He wants to take them out and make sure that he is just damaging the inject, damaging the ability of Stephano to produce units. But Flying isn't even done. He is sending force after Stephano, who now suddenly is able to establish himself a bit of a defense. And Flying realizes it. He tries to go into a third base now.
Yeah, he's going to the third base. He's going to attack with some Archons with his Zealots, and this is going to be something Stephano is not going to be able to defend. He only has 2 spines. He has some Lings, which are going to slow this down, but with the Archons and this many Zealots, what he wishes he had was Roaches, but obviously that's not something he can change right now.
The Archons are key here. The upgrades are not too bad for Stephano, but the Archons alone are going to make him pay dearly for this. Oh my god, this is just way too much to handle.
That's disgusting to watch.
GG! Stephano is down 1 map. Flying counters him perfectly. The DTs not scouted. and the French player not able to win on Daybreak.
Great build by Flying, really well executed. Keeps the attention away from scouting, away from DTs and pylons by forcing the Lings to not be at his pylons with the Zealots he had. The Zealots keeping Stephano's attention at the third base when the DTs coming in. And it was just a build that I'm sure Flying studied him and looked up exactly how Stephano plays because it's fairly easy for him to do so. Then dismantles him with DTs. He got a little bit lucky, and in game number 2, this is where we're really testing Flying against Stephano because he's not going to be able to catch Stephano like this twice.
I'm not sure if Flying is going to change his MO. He will rely on timing attacks, on trying to supply Stephano. Stephano is the last player in the world where you want to play a macro game if you are not 100% sure you can beat him there. And I feel that very few players can. Flying had a great strategy for game number 1, and this is exactly what you have to do against Stephano in this position. So I really like his play here. Stephano needs to be a little bit more cautious how he approaches this. Flying is sneaky.
Yeah, really sneaky. Neo Planet S is a big map, a map that I feel plays into Stephano's strengths. Because it's a map where mid-game pushes with roaches are quite strong if Stephano wants to go for that, but also the late game is something he can easily attain as well. We've seen Stephano play on this map in the past, looking strong. We'll find out what Flying has in store. Again, a build like DT's is probably not going to catch Stephano twice. He may just try to play a straight-up game. He's up a game in the series, test Stephano's might in a macro game. Would not be surprised to see that, maybe Stargate play coming out. Regardless, the map is loaded. It's time for Game 2, Stephano versus Flying, here at the GSL Code A, casted by Caldor and Wolf.
Starting to the bottom left with a 1-0 lead in the best-of-3 series is our Caspar Protoss player. Starting for the Woongjin Stars, we have
Woongjin Stars Fly.
This time the pylon on the low ground.
Yep. And his opponent, of course, the French player, starting to the top right in blue. We have for Evil Genius.
Stephano lay the court.
Stephano down a game in the series, found himself a bit duped by the DTs in game number 1. But I don't think we'll see such a one-sided game in game number 2.
You know, I looked down the match history of Stephano and I tried to find a best-of-3 where he lost against the Protoss player, and I'll give you a quick overview of opponents that he was able to beat. He won against against Titan with a 3-0. He took down a Terminator. He took down SOS. He was able to win against a Hero, and Pro League was in January. He took out Mana with a 2-0, won against Baby Knight with a 2-1, defeated Feast twice, took out MC in December, and Freya as well. So that was back in the days when he was still in Europe. He defeated Elfie, Mana again, won against Zocke, won against Dream, and only against Harstim at the beginning of December did he lose a best-of-3. This guy is so dominant in Zerg versus Protoss that I feel no one bet a single dollar on Flying. But now, Flying is ahead.
Yeah, Flying is ahead in this series, but I don't want to say his build was lucky, but it was definitely not typical. It was weird. It was a build that caught Stephano off guard, and if we play normal games in Game 2 and Game 3, Stephano will be able to shine in his Zerg vs. Protoss like we've seen in the past, like you're relying on.
While I completely agree with that, I feel if you're Flying, what else are you going to do? You're not going to start with the game where you go into 3 bases and go into the late game. I feel this is the worst choice that he can make, because Stephano is known for his crazy late game. So I feel that a build like this is exactly what he needs to repeat, and Stephano is the one who, with the knowledge of how good he is in this matchup and how much material his opponents have to prepare, is the one who has to make sure that he is acquiring all those scouting information that he needs to prepare. Because what are you expecting from Flying?
I mean,
a build like this with DTs is definitely something that I can see him pull off in Game 3 when it comes to that again. Just for the hell of it.
Yeah. I mean, he could do anything here. He's very carefully checking to see if Stephano takes that gold base, because there are very few gold bases that are left in GSL map pools, but this is one where we could see Stephano take this base and go for a roach push, for example. That's the SK logo. That's why this is the Planet S that Legend is showing us right now. So the Pro League maps, that's why it's here. That's why it's called Planet S. But neither of these teams are affiliated with that logo or the company. But Flying, what's he going to do? His core's in the main, which means that he hides from Stephano the Chrono Boost, whether or not he's going for a Warp Gate-oriented push or not. And so far, he has not started the +1. He could go for it right away, right now. On his forge, he has the gas. Starts a Zealot first. And he's going to scout the third base of Stephano. It's really hard to keep this a secret.
He's going to scout the third base now, and he knows exactly what he's up against. What Stephano has to do now is show his A game, really show why he is so strong against Protoss, why this is his best matchup, and why Protoss players all across the globe are afraid of it. Flying, what is he going to do? He showed us a build with DTs in game number 1. Is opening with the robotics here in game number 2. We could see him with a lot of different builds. He could go into an Immortal push. We have him with the Robo before he goes into the attack upgrade.
Yep. Robo first, very quickly here. This third base for the Zerg it's relatively far away, but if you spread your creep over there early, like Stephano is doing right now, you can be pretty safe against an Immortal push. Takes double gases and shows them to Stephano here. No +1 just yet. I think that we may just see an expansion build out of Flying. We're going to see if he starts an Immortal right away here with that +1 he's just started, it's going to be a different story. It all comes down to this moment. What are you going to do Flying? There's the Immortal.
Immortal for Flying, and the usual approach for Stephano in this is he sets up flanks. There are only a few players who will be able to set up flanks the way that Stephano does. He attacks from every angle and he waits for the perfect moment. If he can do it, he has good chances here, but Flying knows exactly what he's in for. He knows that with this push, execution is everything and that you need to have perfect force fields. And if he gets those force fields, Stephano will have a very tough time.
Yeah. Second Immortal is on the way. Third gate goes up. This is going to be very scary. The creep for Stephano is getting out there. His lair is coming up as +1. Everything is lined up for Stephano as you would expect. Oh, he gets the wings in. He does not see the robotics, so it's really important that that was on the high ground.
Yeah, doesn't see the robotics and did also not see the Immortal. Flying immediately moving the Immortal back because he tries to hide it.
Stephano is adding a lot of drones right now, though, going up to 64 right now. And if he wants to hold a push like this, he can't make any more than that.
64 is a very high number. You see a lot of Zerg players that are up against an Immortal push or against an potentially Immortal push stop their drone production already at 55 to 58. But Stephano going for it. And ooh, for a second we had a Twilight Council attempt here by Flying, which would rather indicate him going into a third base. And there it is.
Yeah, he could be doing that same build we saw Parting do, where he kind of fakes the push and goes into a third. There's the +1 finishing up. And he's moving out with this. Stephano is moving out with a few roaches, but if he runs these roaches into this force, he's going to lose all of them, and then the attack becomes, even though it's mostly a fake right now, a little bit scarier. He does not catch the roach, though. This is going to scare Stephano a little bit. He starts 13 roaches. His speed is finishing up exactly as he would like. He's also got that macro hatchery finishing up right now.
There comes the third base, but we still don't have additional probes being produced. He's going for blink and plus to attack. There they are. Probe production continued.
Yeah. He may have been supply blocked, but regardless.
No, he wasn't.
Regardless, now he starts his probes again, and Stephano is moving across the map. Now that he knows about this base, he wants to punish it. I just don't think he can punish it against this composition, especially with this wall that's been laid.
I'm actually not quite sure if I really like that Flying is not moving out. Him cutting probes for so long and still being at a low count, having this very, very strong force and not using it. It's not on the map and it will help him defend the third base. But this is still tricky.
It is definitely tricky, especially because he didn't stay at the rocks here, so he loses his gateways without cancels, and Stephano goes for another attack, and he's going to catch this Immortal.
And this is this problem that you have as a Protoss on this map when you try to take your third base. You have to bounce between the natural and the third, and this is not easy at all because the distance is quite huge, so a good Zerg player will be able to spread you out very thin, take down the forge, take down every now and then a few of the units that are trying to close distance, so that's not very easy to pull off.
Yeah. Stephano, though, is shut down here, flying with some really nice force fields at the natural. Losing those gateways at the third is important because he loses his ability to defend against future run-bys. He has to remake them. But more important than that is that's part of his production. Those gateways he's adding are serving a twofold purpose. One, to make it so he has more warp-in points, and the second one is, of course, to wall. So these gateways would be done now. He'd have extra units to warp in, but now he's going to start banking up some minerals because he doesn't have those forces. And we have Stephano following up with a big attack here.
And he has the Hydra then. The Hydra then is completed, so now he can go into Hydrolist. He has a massive amount of roaches.
Flying is in the middle of nowhere.
Is done. And here comes Stephano. The force fields have to be perfect, but as you said, he's in the middle of nowhere. And he's with his back against the wall, and he is going to lose everything here.
The Immortal that's at the natural is not helping out, and Stephano is just destroying this army. This is a one-side battle. Yeah, you can blink up the high ground all you want, but that means Stephano can come in here and kill your Nexus.
Stephano is moving in, is basically saying, what's up, son? And there is just nothing to defend. This is the problem that we talked about, the distance between the natural and the third for the Protoss.
Yeah, the base is gone, and Flying cannot even send his units over to defend it because he doesn't have enough. He'll lose all of his army if he tries. Stephano's taking up 4th base right now. He's adding some Hydras in, which he doesn't even necessarily have to do, but it's a choice that I can sit well with. He starts a Spire. I like this much more.
Yeah. He's not going all out on this. He knows that he has such a crazy lead. If he can snipe the Forge, that would be awesome for him. Then he can make sure that there are no additional upgrades. This is what he does. Very well played by Stephano here. Flying, trying to take this third. This is the reason why I said I would have more liked him to go into an attack to Stephano's third, trying to execute this Immortal push. It's not really easy on this map. It's still very dangerous if you run into a flank, but the problem is just taking this third is so difficult as a Protoss.
Yeah, this is a map where we've seen almost no Protoss try to hold third bases because it's so difficult.
And if they try, they always run into the same problem, the long distance, and that's exactly where Flying was caught with his pants down.
Yeah. And now Stephano just has way too much. He's going to trade multiple times against this Immortal heavy composition with his Hydras at the back doing the extra damage.
He wants to end it. He's nearly maxed out. He has 80 Harvester supply against 45. He has 4 bases against 2. He can wait for the upgrade and just go in, and that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, he waits for +2. The Hydras fight here. And, you know, a good force field here for Flying. He's going to buy time.
But he doesn't trap a lot.
Yeah.
There's still gaps, and Stephano is using them. Moving in right now, the Hydrolists need to do their damage. There are a lot of Immortals. That's where Stephano has to be careful. The Roaches alone, they can't do anything.
Yeah, Stephano is remaxing instantly, though, and he is taking out Flying's units steadily, or slowly but steadily. But Flying will be able to push this back, and if he catches this army before the link-up with the reinforcements, Flying will have saved himself. But the thing is, he still doesn't have a third base.
The blink, the creep helps Stephano a lot here. The forward blink, but here come those Zerglings streaming in. The reinforcements with the Hydrolist, they do damage as well. A couple of Roaches trying to land their strength too. And Flying is dropping in supply, losing Immortal after Immortal.
Yeah, Stephano just has too much of a bank. He's had too much economy for too long, and he will eventually beat this force. Sutter steps in here. The Hydra's doing so much damage. And yeah, if it was just up to these 2 armies, Stephano would not win it, but he's got so many more Roaches rallying in here, and that's it. He has to blink back. He will never take a third base.
And the entire time, Stephano is hitting his injects. He has the lava, now using all of that up, now back to 1, but the injects are going to pop in a few seconds, then he will be up again. He's getting 22 Zerglings, getting more and more Hydras, and there's just no economy for Flying to keep up with this.
Yeah, GG. This is why Flying is going to have to do timing attacks, most people are feeling, against Stephano, because if he tries to play against Stephano trying to take a third base, Stephano will say no. Stephano has the power to knock down any Protoss third, it feels like.
Yeah, Stephano has done really well in this game. Flying was up against him on a bad map, trying to take this third, and you can really see him now with his arms crossed, thinking about the next map. Belcher, Vestige. That's where he has to defeat Stephano if he wants to advance.
This is another map that's tough for Protoss players to take a third base. We've seen some players figure out how to use fake Immortal pressure, kind of like what we saw on Neoplanet S. We've also seen Stargate play allow players to take a third. And this is basically Belcher Beach and making it so that instead there's an easy third to take, it's a tough third to take. And against somebody like Stephano, who's great at just pouring out the aggression at that third base, I just don't see a third base happening in this game if Flying is really thinking about this from a logical standpoint.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Protoss players trying to pull that off, especially Parting, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. Parting is still on another level than Flying, in my personal opinion. I'm not quite sure if Flying would really want to rely on a third base here. It's very similar to the last map, so if Stephano can get an edge, he will use it, and that's exactly what he's going to try. What is flying up his sleeve? We're going to find out. Can he win against Stephano? Will the French player dominate the best of 3 and take it after an initial loss? This is what we're going to see on Belgium Vestige, the third map between these two at the GSL Code A, the second round with Karl and Wolf. Bottom right of the map, we have the Woongjin Stars player, successful with DTs on map number 1 and then losing to Stephano on Neo Planet S. This is
Woongjin Stars Fly.
Flying needs to try to avoid the late game on this map against Stephano, who is the player to the top left in the blue. The Zerg player from EG, he is.
Stephano lay the core.
I messed that one up. I spoiled it.
It's fine, people knew.
Yep, they know.
Talking a little bit about Stephano's accomplishments. He won first place at NASL Season 3, claiming 24,000 euro in prize money. He won IGN Pro League Season 3. He won ESWC 2011. He was successful at WCS Europe. He took at the ESWC 2012. He was able, no, sorry, that was the third place. He took Lone Star Clash 2. He was once again able to win the WCS France. He took the second place at Assembly Winter. He was third at the Red Bull Battlegrounds and won a lot of other tournaments, smaller tournaments that is. This guy is winning all over the planet.
Yep, he's basically taken trophies everywhere, and he wants to get back into Code S so he can take his first Heart of the Swarm trophy there as well.
If you want to follow his life and also, of course, support him a little bit, make sure that you jump on Twitter. You can add him at EG Stephano RC. Flying, unfortunately, does not have a Twitter account that we know of, but of course, the two of us also have one. You can add Wolf at ProxyWolf and myself at Color with KH.
Yeah, please do that. Flying is going for a Forge Fast Expand, this time on the low ground, showing his Forge there, and adds his Gateway now. This map, again, is just, it's Belshire Beach with a tough third base, basically. There's no Entombed Valleyness to it. It's just, it's a harsh third base to take. They added those rocks there to make it a little bit safer, but Stephano, he doesn't care about rocks.
What Stephano also doesn't really care about are things like anxiety or nervousness. He's always approaching games in a really calm manner and in a very stable state of mind.
Yeah,
he's not one to get nervous in the booth or one to be like looking at a game and suddenly panicking. He just plays his style, he plays as best as he can, and if his opponent is better, then he's going to lose. He's completely fine with that. So a loss in an early game doesn't really shake him. You could see that on Daybreak. He lost the game, and then in the second match he was completely fine. He played his normal style. He won the game, is now approaching game 3 with exactly the same attitude.
And I like that. Just sticking with his style, something that's universal. He knows that his style is safe against almost everything. Obviously found himself a little bit weak to the DTs in game 1, but had he scouted the Dark Shrine or been just a little bit safer, he would have been fine against the DTs and would have taken a massive lead. Flying, his Cybernetics core is halfway done, and I feel if he does not do the Immortal push, he will have to go Stargate. He cannot just try to make a Twilight Council and then take a third base with Blink and +2. Not against a player like Stephano, not on this map. I think he's going to have to try to get ahead early to take a third. Core is done.
Yeah, and now we are going to see what kind of tech he's going to choose. Stargate. A very early Stargate.
Yeah, before Warp Gate Research and the Stalker. As fast as you can get it.
And this is a tech that we have seen very often on this map. Most Protoss players will go into a Stargate opening. Especially Casper Protoss players have done this a lot in the past.
Yeah, Casper players love to do this. Genius loves to do this. This is a map where if you want a third base, you go Stargate, basically. And it's what we've found historically speaking on this map. And Stephano has faced Stargate play a lot in the past, but this is a different player he's facing now. And the question is, what type of Stargate player are we going to see? He can see that with his Overlord if he sends it in just a few feet closer.
We have to see Phoenixes here. I would be surprised to see a Void right now.
Probably going to be the case, and there it is. But does he go straight for the Overlords and try to clear them up with the Phoenixes first, or does he wait? Waiting seems logical, but the Overlord is right there.
With the positioning, I don't think he's gonna wait. If you wait, usually you try to hide your Stargate a little bit better and you put it at the bottom right or bottom left of your base, but the Overlord is something that he probably knows about, and he's going to show the Phoenix right away, heads over, and tries to just force a reaction by Stephano. This is not one of those sneaky times when you try to attack with 4 Phoenixes immediately, or even with 3 if you want to be super fast. This is just like, dude, I build a Stargate, do me a favor, and build a Hydra then.
Yeah. He kills the Overlord, which actually supply blocks Stephano. Starts 3 right away, but he's not going to be able to make any more units for a while. Stephano has gone up to 58 drones. He's been droning heavily against this. And now he needs to get the spores down. He does not waste any time in doing so.
Yeah. Spore crawlers are there, and the question is always how heavily do you commit to spore crawlers and queens opening with the Stargate? Do you also get the Hydra Den? Even with the Hydra Den, you can hit timings where your opponent won't have Colossi out early, because the usual transition for a Stargate opening, if you open up with the Phoenixes, is going into Colossi. You try to force out a reaction with Hydralisks. Hydralisks are very, very bad against Colossus play, so this is kind of the thought process that you have behind it.
This is a really scary Zealot push that's coming in with this. He has the Queen and the Lings are about to pop out. He targets down the Spore Claw, which is an interesting choice. This is going to eliminate some of the anti-air so he can kill the Queen, but is it worth it for losing that Stalker? We'll find out. He's trading decently against the Lings because the Zealots are in a good spot here.
And the Queen is also going to die. He will need a second lift because he only has 3 of them at the vicinity. But there's the second lift. The Queen is dead, so will those Overlords bite the dust very soon.
He can warp into the main if he gets a Phoenix over there because he has that pylon, so this is where the next Zealots will likely be.
Stephano is supply blocked, and this is not really good for him, not at all.
Yeah.
The infestation pit is done, but now suddenly with the high ground vision, Flying is going in here. This is a great performance by Flying. I like this a lot what he's doing.
Cool build. He's going to be able to catch this Queen here. He's killing the roaches over here. Stephano just does not have enough larvae to deal with all these attacks from different locations right now because he's lost his Queens. He can't hit injects anymore. Great positioning, though, on those Zealots. He forces the Zealots into a choke point.
Stephano realized very late what exactly was going on. He's losing a lot here. 18 Harvesters so far. Flying is playing this in such a great manner. The pylon on the low ground allowing the warp in into the main base. Stephano catching it a little bit late, losing too much. And this is just Flying taking him, in this early game at least, apart.
Yeah, he has no Queens. He can't hit injects anymore, so he's struggling to produce. He's losing more drones at his third base. Flying is in 3 places at once, and now he's fighting Zealots against Roaches, but you know, normally that's not a good trade, but with the low amount of larvae, Flying just had too many Zealots. He could overwhelm the Roaches at first. Now he's finally going to be cleaned up, but Flying has done so much damage. The worker count is 50 to 40 in favor of Flying right now.
And Flying is not done yet. Flying is still going strong. He has his Phoenixes there. The Queen count is still low. If he can get in and get a lift, and this is exactly what he does, he takes down another Queen. This is the last Queen that Stephano has. Yeah. This is horrible for his production.
He will actually save the hatchery, but the Void Ray's coming over. And
Stephano is completely overwhelmed. Wolf, look at his money. Yeah. He has 800.
He can't spend it without the larva, without the Queens, and if that Void Ray goes and targets the hatchery down, no Queens are going to stop him. He's going to have to rely on Spore Crawlers alone, and here he goes. Sends the Void Ray over. The Phoenixes are here to help bodyguard.
But he could have started those Queens a lot sooner. He just didn't. And now suddenly there's a Void Ray, and I don't think that Stephano can do anything at all.
Yeah, he can just move the Void Ray away from the Spore now. He needs to do that, though.
He needs to circle the hatch if he wants to take it down.
Yeah, and so far he's not. This is going to be close regardless. Stephano is heavily supply blocked now. The Roaches he has in the middle of the map are all he's going to have, but there are Immortals up. There are 5 Sentries. There are cannons finishing. He's going to have 5 cannons.
But still, let's just talk about this third for a second. Even though, yes, Flying has to go back, this is a mistake not taking down this third base. This is a little bit sloppy. There was not a lot of time that he needed to stay down with his Void Ray to take this to kill it. So this could come and bite him back.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't kill that, but Stephano now has map control. He's not going to be able to take a third base Flying that is for a really long time. The Void Ray goes back initially, but it's too late. The Spores and there's a Queen now are going to be enough to hold him up. Another Pylon, though, will be a problem. He's going to warp Zealots into the main base once again, most likely here.
Yeah, Pylon on the low ground. Stephano does not have Infestors yet.
This type of play will not be accessible in the expansion of the game, but in Wings of Liberty right now, you can warp Zealots in like this. And he knows the Roaches are out of position. He can see them with his Void Rays flying around, so he knows that this is a weak moment, and he warps in a Sentry as well. He can force seal the ramp. And he does. Perfectly done. He goes for the Evolution Chamber, which will stop the +1 for the Zerglings. He will get this Queen as well.
The Queen is gone, and the Sentry can drop another force field. The Phoenixes can fly over to the natural, take down another Queen. Pathogen glance only halfway done. Also something that Stephano could have started ages ago. He had the resources, couldn't get rid of them because he didn't have the lava. All these things are just missing. This is what makes flying, at least in his third game, a lot better than Stephano. This is something that a lot of people didn't expect. Stephano is being taken apart.
He's really taken apart. You know, it's a snowball effect that you have in this type of situation, but Flying is hitting all the steps correctly. Even though he didn't kill that third hatchery, all that's mining right now is 2 drones and a geyser, and that's better than nothing, but it's still, he's not really able to utilize that third base.
The only problem for Flying really is that he couldn't get a third base up. The supply is still very even because of that fact. Flying has lost a lot less resources than Stephano. We have now 3,500 resources lost for Flying and more than 6,000 for Stephano. But Stephano is trying hard to stabilize. With those infestors, he will most likely have the chance to do so. He's getting his drone count up, and the third base, as said earlier, is still alive. This is where Flying made a little mistake. He could have used the Void Ray, just reposition it, and then kill the hatch. He didn't do that.
Yeah, he did not do that, and that would have made him in a much better situation than he is now. But he's still very ahead in this game. He's walled his third. He has Colossi out already, 2 of them, with Phoenix support against Stephano, who can't really afford an investor transition that he would like to have.
You see that? That was actually quite cute. Stephano moving out with those infestors, realizing that they were in danger, and then dropping a preemptive fungal against the Phoenixes, but Flying didn't even try to catch them, so he didn't run into the fungal and retreated. That was nice.
Just little subtle micro moves by both players. Stephano wants to do something with these infestors. It's costing him everything he owns to make them, but the problem is he's behind in upgrades, and he does not have a force that's strong enough to deal with these Colossi.
He does also not have a Spire.
Yeah, no Spire means no Corruptors. No Corruptors means no way to deal with the Colossi. Blink is finishing, +2 is finishing right now for Flying.
Stephano's getting the Spire now. He knows that he needs it. The main question is, will Flying give him the time? And also, we have still all those Phoenixes around. If there's not a good fungal, maybe now, if he can get a fungal in, oh my god, Flying! That should not have happened.
I'm a little bit surprised he decided to go for this. He could have very easily just kept the Phoenixes around to help fight against the Corruptors later, or pick up Infestors later.
Okay, this was a mistake by Flying. He's still ahead in this game, but you don't want to lose your units like this. You want to go in with your main army, pick up those Infestors before they can drop fungals. He didn't need to lose all those Phoenixes.
The composition for Flying is probably about 8 times better than Stephano's right now. With these Colossi, with the force fields he has to drop, there's not very many units the fungals are going to affect directly without more units to work with them, like having Broodlords, for example, or Corruptors.
It's perfectly right. Flying is still way ahead here, but the thing is, if you make too many subtle and small mistakes, then this could lose you the game. This is a lesson that Nestea learned earlier against Alive. But Flying is now going in, and he has a huge supply lead already. Those fungals are not going to buy Stephano too much time. He's now going into those Corruptors, but does he have the time to get them into the game?
It just doesn't feel like it. The Warp Prism is here now as well. Flying has so much production. The hatchery, with basically no hit points left from earlier, will fall almost instantly. Stephano goes for a counterattack. All the infrastructure that was set up earlier is still there. But, you know, that's a lot of links. He's going to have to warp in some units. He will lose his third Nexus, but will Stephano be able to hold his own bases against this many Colossi? I just don't see it.
There are the fungals. We have them. The Infestors are trying to buy time. The Corruptors are finally in the game. Most of the Sporkers are already gone. The bottom left is being attacked by the Zerglings. Can Stephano really pull this off? It looks unlikely, but maybe he can turn this around.
The last of the Corruptors fall. The Stalkers getting really low on hit points, but there's no more Infestor energy here. And the Colossi are just too much, I feel. The drones are running away.
Stephano is trying to retreat into his main base. He knows that holding the natural is not an option without those units missing. And now the Lings are just trying to find an angle here. Still 2 Colossi. And Stephano is holding on for dear life here. Yeah, but he didn't even kill the third at the bottom left.
Yeah, he didn't kill it. It's got 200 hit points left. The Stalkers need to blink. He needs to pull back his Colossi, and so far he does. And this is looking bad for Stephano. He has some Corruptors up here, but the Colossi are already engaging. The Colossi at the back getting picked up by the Warp Prism. Really nicely done. He will drop it. GG!
Flying with a great performance in game number 3 takes the series. We talked about Stephano's accomplishments. He was the huge favorite in this game, but Flying with the DT build in game 1 and a great macro game on Belcher Vestige takes down the French player.
Really good
Really well done.
multitasking, you know, constantly harassing at multiple locations, having the pylon to work Zealots into the main base. Then at the third base, he was running in, having the Phoenixes picking off drones, killing Overlords. Stephano must have lost maybe 10 Overlords in that early situation, and that's minerals he lost and larva he lost while he was losing his queens where he couldn't produce units.
That game, the third game by Flying, was great. This was really, really well played. And I liked the snipe build on Daybreak, but the third game was a lot better. He played so well. The pile on the low ground with the Phoenixes bouncing between the bases, the anti-air for Stephano gone, and then Flying making up for that. Few little mistakes where he could have done better, but well, he won in a convincing fashion, and this is also always